Let's click on this. My mic is
This
on.
video is brought to you by...
Cool. That looked good. All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
This video is brought to you by Incognito. Now, the difference between an average person and a billionaire is essentially zero. Unfortunately, about 9 of them. Nevertheless, if you're a regular person, you walk around the same streets as both the riff, the RAF, and professionals all the same.
So a long time ago probably on Reddit, because it used to be a good site with information that was worth, mind expanding information instead of mind shrinking information that I think it's plagued with today. Somebody pointed out that if you just like look at it as a matter of fractions for a billionaire, look at like a hotel room and its cost. Think about how much of your percentage of your income that cost is for you, and then take a look at a million, even just a millionaire. Somebody, so like imagine like somebody who has $100,000 in the bank, and look at what percentage of the cost it is for them, and then keep extrapolating. And remember that with each zero, you're talking about a factor of 10. So a millionaire going to a double, what, 7-figure? What's that? 6, 7, 8-figure person, like tens of millions of dollars, is such a huge step up. So that percentage of everything around you costs a fraction of what it used to cost in comparison to your whole pie. And once you start seeing it like that, you realize, like, yeah, to a billionaire, like anything that is, anything worth paying for is going to be paid for, because why not? Because they're talking like pennies. Like, if a billionaire orders DoorDash or one of those, basically like scams, delivery services, it doesn't really matter to their bottom line because they have so much money. Like, that delivery fee is nothing, and the time they save by not going out into the world is so much more valuable to them at that point versus somebody like me, probably somebody like you. Your money is far more limited and has to be used for bills, rents, credit card debt, whatever it is. And basically you have to sacrifice time because you don't have the money. That's essentially like what they said. Time is money.
Probably know people who still live at home, friends slumming it with roommates, couples sharing a 2-bedroom, and high earners with a single family home, a dog, 2 kids, and the white picket fence, giving you a decent perspective of life for the average person. But when you're so rich that money basically doesn't matter, everything changes completely. One unavoidable characteristic of becoming a billionaire is that you end up in such an isolated social circle that you often cease to relate to the common person, and your life becomes unrecognizable. For this reason, billionaires actually have more in common with the homeless than they do with most people. Doesn't pay taxes, undiagnosed mental illness, on the kind of drugs you don't even know how to get, and never even heard of the Epstein files. Now,
wow. This is such I keep saying that there's the bell curve, the people who are on the deviations outside of the norm have more in common with each other because they're outliers. Just being an outlier from the norm, the majority of the bell curve is already going to put you into a different quality, or you're much more isolated, whether through your own decisions or through, because of your own decisions, or because you can't relate to anybody around you. It is truly isolating. Not to say I'm that far off of the center compared to these folks. I unfortunately interact with homeless people nearly daily at my job because they're all around the Houston downtown area, probably like any other downtown area. And I definitely can't. I definitely am still much closer to the average person than I am to them. At least for the time being. We'll see how my income goes and this whole economy thing shakes out. Yes, that is. If you're listening to this is the key to actually making it into a different stratosphere of what's the word I'm looking for? Like actually elevating your level, at least here in America. You have to figure out a service or a good that people will pay you for out of their hard-earned money. Like a movie doesn't make $1 billion because one person shows up and gives the movie $1 billion. It's because millions of people across this nation show up and give it, I don't know how much these days, $18. My goodness. I remember when I could see a movie, a matinee for $7. And yeah, so if you really want to be somebody who's outside the norm of the bell curve and get ahead, especially be on the good side, you're going to need to figure out a problem that people have that you can solve for them, whether that problem be boredom or the toilet being backed up and needing to be unclogged. And you have to be able to provide them a solution to said problem. And I mean, like, this could be different advice if you were in different parts of the world, but for the most part, I honestly, I mean, unless you're trying to do something very, like, this is the most honest and true way of becoming well-to-do, is to gain a skill that people can pay, that people want handsomely for, and that's rare enough that you can negotiate, because they need you and other people need you. Otherwise, that's, I guess that's what they mean when they say unskilled labor. It's not that you're unskilled, it's just the skills that you have are easy to teach to many people, and you're not going to be considered special. And take it from me, somebody who basically has like a laundry list of unskilled labor. But Elon Musk being the opposite, being on the other side of the like honest scale of being a billionaire, or being well-to-do. I should state that I do think that there's a line that you cross getting closer to $1 billion. I think even if you have tens of millions of dollars in the bank, you could still be a fairly ethical person. But I think once you get up to billions and you are personally worth those billions, not just your businesses, that's when you get up to the place where you are probably doing things that might have St. Peter furrow his brow when you show up at the pearly gates. That's all I'm saying. Now, Elon Musk, I feel like he's just one big flim-flam man for the most part. So, I mean, the best, even he has done some good, or at the very least, he has had, good ideas executed by better minds. But I think for the most part, he's just a spinning plates on the, making false promises, and also utilizing loopholes in tax systems in order to prop up his businesses. I mean, if you know more about Elon Musk, please list it below. I definitely have tried to back off on the just being a general hater train that like a lot of leftists are, where they will just find anybody and everybody who's successful and tell you why that they are actually secretly a bad person. But I do still think that Elon Musk is secretly a bad person, or at the very least, I don't think we should be honoring him, if that makes sense. He needs help. Thank you. Like he said at the beginning, they have more in common with the homeless population in terms of how they see and interact with the world, and that there's a reason we shouldn't be encouraging people to be this superstar, to be the winner, these like millionaires. Like, we shouldn't be making heroes of our oligarchs, because they, if anything, have like the burden of isolation, and moving towards them makes you more and more isolated. And also, you're eventually going to reach the inevitable, if you're really pushing for it and you don't have the skills or the efficacy or whatever it is that makes this sort of thing possible. And oh my God, what is wrong with my recording? I just realized that it stopped. Oh no. Wait, let me see something. Anyways, going back to what I was saying, it's just, if you are, if you're meant to be out, in a different space on that social, economic, cultural bell curve as an individual, you will fight to get every step of the way there. But Elon Musk did not become a billionaire because somebody handed it to him. It's because he took it. Whether you like him or not, you do have to admit he didn't take no for an answer when it came to gaining all of that wealth and finding the way to do it, and doing things not because they were the right thing to do, but because they were the things that would make him more money and make him more powerful. Now, maybe he self-justified that by saying, I need to become more powerful so I can do what I believe is the right thing. But what I'm ultimately saying is we should not be deifying these people. They are awesome. They are great, but but it's not, that doesn't mean they're good. And it doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. I think, there's a lot of argument to be made that they might be, bad in some way. But what I'm trying to say is that not something they are not something you can desire to become if you're incapable. And they aren't something that you're not going to become if you are capable. I hope that makes sense. I think that we should look at being on that side of history, or that side of the on the extreme ends of the social economic classifications, and think of it as that is practically an inevitability, assuming within some amount of resource means, like, and encouragement and mentorship. But there will be, even the people who could potentially be on the high end of the bell curve are still going to have to put themselves in situations where they could be the winners or they could be the losers. And if they lose, they might just be pushed back towards being more in normal, or on the other side of the success to unsuccessful outlier. It could be like that you are on your way to being on the successful side of being an outlier. I should probably get a graphic of the bell curve and just have it like ready to go so I can talk through it. But you can be on the successful side of being an outlier, and then one bad decision or one over investment in a position could shoot you not even towards the middle of the bell curve, but like instantly teleport you to the other side. And like I said, outliers, it's like I don't know if it's something you're born with or something that is like, is a psychological like bug that gets in your head as a young person, like as a very, like impressionable baby, I think is like when it probably first starts out, toddler era. But it should almost be seen as being a curse as much as anything else, because it means your life is going to be much harder. And we should deify or make heroes and glorify the person who goes more towards the middle, more towards like being a productive member of society, who has, a standard family and has like a good social circle and has community. Because if everybody is out there trying to be these weirdos, then we're just going to have a country full of weirdos. I don't know how else to describe it. And I'm talking as somebody who is like aspirational, but maybe doesn't have the complete tool set in order to not necessarily become a billionaire, but become a successful, like, creative type, which is it's in of itself its own, rat race, because so many people want to make a living doing what they think of as fun, creative things. Anyways, that's that's a lot. Let me get back into it. Oops.
A tech billionaire and right-wing ideas guy, appeared on a podcast and was asked if he thought the human race should survive. He then stammered over the question for 15 seconds before reluctantly answering with the classic, "Yes, but..."
Anything said before the "but" is bullshit.
Now, I'm no expert in media training, but as I frequently tell Putin, Hamas, and Benjamin Netanyahu on our weekly Zoom meetings, the correct answer to human rights questions is always to say yes right away, and only reveal later that you had your fingers crossed out of frame. Billionaires like Teal...
No, that kind of reminds me of like that whole, the most recent issue with Trump and the Epstein list, and him supposedly saying, like taking that one clip of an interview where he said, yes, he would release the Epstein list, and then cutting it. And then for him to go on to say, well, I would release it with caveats, or I'd want to vet the list, or I wouldn't want to just release it on everybody because there's a lot of false allegations, or, there's tampering, whatever he said. But it very much reminds me of that. It's like, yes, he answered in the affirmative only to back it up, but people could clip him answering in the affirmative. which I guess that one bit him in the butt, because now everybody's like, well, he said he would do it, even if he didn't totally say he would do it. It was very quantified.
Are almost alarmingly out of touch with how to communicate with the general public, because even though he can understand a regular person's life conceptually, he can't relate to them on a personal level.
Wait, is that Peter Thiel? I thought Peter Thiel was the other guy. Oh, buddy. Man. Wait, maybe it's not. I don't know. Which one's Peter Thiel? Let me know in the comments below.
For example, I get really hot at night when I go to bed, so I like to turn the temperature way down, whereas Thiel prefers to sleep in it.
Okay, I was going to say, with all that money, no offense to the other guy. I mean, I was thinking of it more from the perspective of being a gay man, and I was like thinking he would not succeed so well in that lifestyle, looking the way he did. Thiel has at least got those eyes working for him, and like he's obviously aged, but he's aged much more gracefully.
Deep freezer, he lays down like a sarcophagus. Now, the good news is that not all billionaires base their whole personality on World of Warcraft expansions and name their company after the magic rock Sauron used.
Oh, Palantir. Oh yeah, this is one of those funny things where all of a sudden I'm hearing a lot more about a company that I had no idea of. It must have reached that cultural breaking point, or it's on its way there, and I'm being swept up into it. But Palantir, I just heard about yesterday through, I think, an Asmongold video about Peter, about it, about what it does. No, it wasn't Asmongold. It was Atriarch. How do you say his name? All the React videos. It's funny, you get into a place where you're no longer just watching videos, you're watching the reactions to the videos. Atriarch, I think, is his name. Anyways, he's not coming up immediately on my feed, so I'll put it away. All right, let's see.
And manipulate their will. Warren Buffett, for example, has not only pledged all of his wealth to charity after he dies, but he also still lives a very humble life in his house in Omaha that he bought in 1958 using the change he picked up off the ground. Nevertheless, most billionaires...
Fucking boomers. Well, I guess actually if he bought it in 1958, he's pre-boomer. But still, that's that's all I want is a nice, humble home. And that seems unachievable in this day and age, and that is going to be a problem. If men and women in their 30s can't build a home or acquire like a basic house to live in that they can kind of make their own, then things are going to get really bad, especially if the people in the middle of that bell curve that are just slightly either to left or right of center of that bell curve, if they can't afford it, that's when the dominoes, I think, really start falling. And we have to be wondering if that's going to cause some sort of cultural shift. Because I don't know, I'd have to, obviously there were times when the rich or the powerful were so in control that they maintained control even through those unhealthy economic times, but it's not a good place to be in. It could last hundreds, many generations, I'll say.
Don't do much to shake off the public image that their whole existence is just about lording over their minimum wage warehouse workers as they zillow the next 2,000 hectares of farmland to buy, sip their cognac, and mutter to their Siamese cat what pleasure it brings them to see the peasants toiling for their coin. But this isn't how billionaires run companies. This is how Mr. Beast comes up with video ideas.
Yeah, the real menace of society right there. Yeah, I mean, Mr. Beast, if anything, he's almost more performatively like oligarchical than the actual oligarchs.
The ethical question of should there be billionaires at all is one of the most hot-button issues around right now because wealth inequality has been steadily increasing decade over decade, and many people believe that billionaires don't pay their fair share. This is, of course, ridiculous, as billionaires get divorced all the time. With that said, it is a common belief that if the government were to confiscate everyone's personal wealth above $999 million, this would lead to a dramatic improvement in the standard of living for the average person. Problem is, even if you were to yoink every stock, bond, and square inch of real estate a billionaire owns, liquidate all of it to straight cash while somehow getting market value, in the US you would get about $6.22 trillion, which would cover 11 months of government spending, or...
That's the real. Yeah, that's the thing about concentrated wealth. there's a lot of truth there. There's a lot of truth there. This is not. We don't live a sustainable lifestyle, and I'm sure almost everybody listening to this video has contributed to that in some way. And we definitely need to reel in our consumerism, reel in our expectations. We need to live simpler lives.
Every person in the country would get a one-time payment of around $18,000.
Granted, $18,000 would change my life for the better in the short term.
While this is nothing to scoff at, if you're one of the people who says we should eat the rich, it's important to consider that the average inheritance in the US is $46,000, meaning you would make more money if you ate just one of your parents. Now, because they can't yet buy more of it, billionaires are
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if and how much I'm going to be receiving from my parents' inheritance, but I don't think it's going to be that much. Just I'll be pleasantly surprised if I was getting much more than that. I come from a long line of people who are poor with their finances.
Experts at managing their time. While flying private is out of reach for most of us, there are other tips you can copy from billionaires to save time in your own life. For example, when I make a new account on a website, I save time by letting Chrome auto-generate an encrypted password. I got this idea from Elon Musk, who uses the same technique to name his children. When you basically reach level 99 in capitalism, you might ask yourself, what do I do now? Not to worry, once you've reached the level cap, there's still plenty of side quests.
Oh, probably have sordid affairs with children. I mean, if the Epstein files is to be believed, you're going to start doing illegal things that you can get away with because you are rich and powerful, and you're doing them not because you want to on a in here level. It's not that you were a pedophile to begin with. It's just now you can, and you need to signify to your other rich friends that you're part of their club, this very small exclusive club. You all need to do it together in order so that everybody is guilty and everybody is on the take, if you will. So that way nobody has leverage over anybody else. In fact, everybody has leverage against everybody else in case somebody goes down. They all go down together. That's what you do when you get to to level 99 in capitalism, at least allegedly.
For you to do. While most regular people spend their time playing video games, doing arts and crafts, or playing a sport, billionaires can choose more exotic things like getting bullied on Twitter, criticizing the Chinese government exactly one time, paying pro athletes to
oh my God. Ooh.
Make you feel talented, leaving the planet in search of any novelty that will make the emptiness go away, paying to boost your Path of Exile account, then streaming it to prove to anyone who doubted your multidisciplinary genius that they were in fact correct, exploring the bottom of the ocean to uncover its lost secrets, and of course exploring the bottom of the ocean and then dying instantly.
I do want to say I don't think that was that Ocean Gate submarine image. I don't think that was the actual sub that exploded. I thought it was way more chopped, if you will, the actual sub that exploded. Also, yeah, Elon Musk is never going to live down the Path of Exile account thing. He might as well just owned it hardcore. Just be like, yes, I consider what my money spends for other people's time to actually be what I do. I am living a multifaceted, just like own it in a crazy way. It's like I am living in the multiverse because I have proxies for myself that I pay to do my bidding and my will. And I get to, whatever they do for me is my accomplishment. You might as well have said it like that. But that's one of those things, like why I so love the idea of like fitness and mastery, because you cannot pay, you could pay to have some chess grandmaster play your chess.com account to get your elo up to grandmaster level. But the second you step into his boots, into that account, and start playing other people at your elo level, you are going to be demolished because you don't have it. You can pay somebody to get buff for you, I guess, or to get buff. You can pay somebody to get buff. They could lift, they could go to competitions, they could do all of that, they can even take the testosterone, the roids for you. but the second that they step out of the limelight and you step in, you're not going to be able to bench that 225 below parallel, a squat the 225 below parallel. So those are the things that are, in my opinion, important and that actually mean something. Is the things that you can't fake, you have to prove. And yes, the rich will have more advantage over the non-rich in those things, but they still have to put in the work. They could do it more efficiently and they can do it more consistently, but it still comes down to putting in the work.
In reality, when you're worth even hundreds of millions of dollars, an ultimately rookie amount, you can pretty much have anything you want. Penthouses, luxury cars, private chef, private plane, giant house, and another giant house in a poor country that kind of sucks but has good weather, and you're not sure if purchasing power parity means the gardeners are getting paid well by their standards, or if you just own slaves. With this in mind, if you are a billionaire, it's actually pretty hard to think of a way to flex on multimillionaires, meaning the 23-year-olds on...
I think this is definitely one of those places where my brain does not compute. I don't want to flex on people. I want to have my things, like the things I care about, I would like to have nice versions of. Like when I was Magic the Gathering player, I liked having specific arts, like being very picky about the arts of the cards that I got. If I had multiple options and getting full art lands, back when full art lands came out like once a decade in unsets, and that was legitimately for me, and I guess to signify that I am a serious Magic player to the people I played with. At the time, like for me to be taken seriously. I mean, that was probably the other psychological thing, but I really did not like. I wouldn't want to own a Black Lotus, or I didn't desire a Black Lotus because I never really thought of it as being a fun card, and it only can be played in like one very niche, format of Magic the Gathering that is of itself a very flexy thing that really corners you into just not having anybody to play with. I honestly would much have rather having staples for the mainstream formats at the time, like Modern. Maybe dip my toe into Legacy. There was just enough people playing Legacy to like make it worth it, and yeah. So I guess I've just never thought about like I don't have that thing that says I want to show you what I have. If I was a billionaire, I mean, this can't be completely true. I'm sure that it would, that my world would be shaken up once I have money and maybe things will change. But I would be content with having just a nice car, like, I don't know, a well manufactured car that I just know that I'm not going to have to deal with consequent, too much hassle. I probably would be okay with like essentially a Toyota Camry or a decent truck, of there's a Ford F-150, like still considered a good truck, Toyota Tacoma, something like that. I would much more likely to get that. And if I did get something fancy and nice, it would be like something that like was for me. Like if I got a sports car, I would probably keep it within the train of, sports cars that I could that I've just always desired. I'd probably be more likely to go for a nostalgia pick than a contemporary, a fresh off the lot like thing. It'd more likely be like a specific era of Supra than it would be like a Porsche, or maybe like one of those Porsche 911s. Those still are gorgeous. Anyway, sorry. What I'm trying to say is I don't necessarily have that I want to show how much better I am than you mentality. Or at the very least, if I do have it, it's part of like my shadow side. I kind of think I just want to have the nice things for me. And if it signifies to you that I am a cut above, so be it. But I do it first for myself and for the people around me. I keep a nice house because I value a house being well kept. And especially if I'm living with somebody, it's like I value knowing that they have less on their plate because the house is kept.
Aya, who look like they're 35, aren't going to message you back. That is, of course, until you remember what separates the centimillionaires from the billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
Big boat.
Oh.
Ask a girl if she'd rather be stuck in the middle of a forest with a random bear or a random man, and she picks the bear every time. Ask a girl if she'd rather be stuck in the middle of the ocean with a random shark or stuck in the middle of the ocean with a random Saudi man, and she picks Muhammad every time. This is because men in the forest are broke, meaning they'll try to touch your boob. Whereas men on yachts are rich, meaning they have grown weary of material desires and flew you out business class for your quirky personality.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. That's exactly right.
While no one has tried to sex traffic me yet, the closest I've been able to get so far was when I was on a holiday in France several years ago and made a day trip to Monaco. Now, for people not in the know, Monaco is a tiny sovereign nation basically inside France, and is like a Vatican City tax haven for the ultra-wealthy.
Oh.
They have a little garden you can look at near the Monte Carlo casino, which was the only thing I could afford. And as you walk through, you're like, oh, look, a little building. Hopefully this one's a bathroom. Nope, just another Audemars Piguet watch kiosk. Then you pee on it anyway because you're in Europe. Other than this neat oceanographic museum,
You can't escape. You can't escape your bodily functions. You know what a homeless person, myself, a millionaire, and a billionaire all have in common? We gotta eat, we gotta drink, we gotta pee, and we gotta poo.
what I thought was the coolest part of Monaco was the port, which was divided into sections based on how important people in Monaco thought you were. In the very inner part of the harbor, you have the literal wage slave section, which is basically all the yachts that I would see back home. Then there's Worthless, which had the biggest yachts I have ever seen in real life prior to this. After that, you have Starter Yacht, which are like floating New York City penthouses.
Wow.
Then the last section in the harbor is, finally, a real yacht, which is one giant pier for the 2 or 3 mega yachts that rule the Monaco postcard photo and cost at least $100 million each.
Jesus. I'll just say, maybe it's because I grew up in a landlocked area. I have never understood the desire to have a boat. Like, I understand the desire to have a friend with a boat, possibly, but what do you do? What do you do with it? Is it because you get to sail out there and it's your own sovereign nation if you're the owner of the boat, and you basically get, it's like I might as well be president of this, this sea right here. I don't understand like what is so appealing about being out there. If you know, leave a comment. Tell me what I'm missing out on the ocean.
Obviously, you don't stop there because these things are a dime a dozen. So then you go out in the ocean and you get, what is this, a harbor for ants? Now, you might be thinking what I was thinking at the time, which was, even if you were a billionaire, why on earth would you want a mega yacht so big you can't even park it in the harbor? Exactly, to store your other yachts in, Brokey, get with...
Jesus Christ. Well, I'm just going to say this. I mean, as a man, I think it's pretty true that at some point we all consider how awesome it would be to have a large something that wouldn't fit into many women's harbors, if you catch my drift. And then you kind of grow up and you realize that, enough is a feast. If it's doing the job, then by God, that's great. Better that than having something that can't do the job. But that's where I think most people are divided from these mega rich, the people who have to either were born into being mega rich or so desired it that they were willing to do everything in their power to become mega rich. And that's when you get to the idea of like, well, bigger is better, more money is better. It doesn't matter what I'm using this thing for. What matters is the display of wealth.
Program. At this point, I too was wondering how I could acquire a Russian nesting yacht until I was like, speaking of, what's that? And maybe a few kilometers farther out from the shore was this thing, which is the world's largest sailing yacht, and in the top 5 most expensive yachts ever built. It's owned by Andrei Melnichenko and designed by the guy who made this cool lemon squeezer that my mom just bought. Even though I had forgotten the oligarch class.
What the hell is that lemon squeezer? That's like something, it both looks like the most genius and effective lemon squeezer I've probably ever seen, and something out of like an eerie science fiction art film. That it would like walk over to you so that you and walk over the glass, and then you could squeeze the lemon on it. Wow. I mean, it is a thing of beauty. I would just never have, or not never, but I'd probably not be in a position to dedicate an entire appliance in my house to squeezing juice. I would just get what bartenders have, which is that hand press, because you could put it away.
This yacht existed, this guy claims he doesn't even have ties to the Russian state, making him just a regular, unimportant billionaire. This argument, of course, didn't work on the Italian government after Russia invaded Ukraine, because they saw the yacht parked outside their shoreline and said, yoink, which brings...
The Italian authorities seized one of the world's largest super yachts from an oligarch. Billionaires shoulda nada exist. Sailing yacht A, owned by Russian businessman Andrei Melkonenko, seized in Trieste on Friday evening. Pardon my English tongue. My American tongue, I should probably say.
To the true top of the hierarchy, which isn't who owns the biggest yacht, it's who owns the biggest ocean.
Yes.
And you know what that means.
Oh yeah, bro.
That's right, baby. The taxpayer wins again. Checkmate. Billionaires, me and the boys, have once again risen to the top. Now, if you're looking to... Oh, oops, wrong slide. If you're looking to avoid calls from the IRS or other scammers that manage to get your email or phone number from Zuckerberg's databank, you should try today's sponsor, Incogni. Incogni is a service that contacts data brokers on your behalf to request the removal of your information from their products and services.
Honestly, his ads are usually funny enough to warrant going through. Yo, why haven't you responded to the reels I sent, Jimmy? God. Gosh, I have a guy in my life I worked with at Domino's Pizza, and shout out, buddy. But he will call me just to listen to me watch the reels, which I guess is friendship React content. But it's wild because what he thinks is funny is horrifying to me most of the time. What he thinks is funny is people getting into horrific car crashes or having life-altering fights. And I look at those and get sick to the stomach.
This means it won't be able to be purchased or acquired by potential scammers, spammers, or crazy exes, even though you wish they would sometimes. This is something data brokers have to comply with, they just don't really want to. So to do it yourself manually would take dozens or hundreds of hours. All you have to do is sign up.
When I get a steady job, I am going to get a VPN. I'm going to get one of these services to take all my information offline, and I'm probably going to get some sort of credit repair service because I'm going to need it. Hey, if you're out there, if you're a part of my community and you know of either a remote job or a job in the Houston, Texas area, I am actively looking to be hired. And if these videos become daily, you're going to know that I'm still looking for a job. You got that, buddy? Yeah, I've actually got this all set up so I can do this way more frequently. So expect more from old Jolie.
Or an Incogni account, and right away it'll get to work, while giving you reports on what has been initiated, in progress, and completed. When you use it for the first time, you're going to think, how did it start so fast? I haven't even told it what my data is yet. But that's what you did when you signed up, suddenly causing you to realize why it makes sense that everyone in the world has your email and phone number now. If you'd like to give Incogni a try, you can use promo code CASUALLY at the link in the description to save 60% off an annual plan. Just make sure you leave a bowl of grasshoppers out for Mark, as he comes for you when you rest.
That's Peter A. And what is this bowl of grasshoppers? This has to be some meme that I didn't get. Did somebody interview Mark Zuckerberg and find out that he's on some sort of grasshopper based diet, which would not surprise me. Billionaires are weirdos, and they're definitely the ones who are going to be at the cutting edge of health and diet and stuff like that. To the point where they're the ones who are very likely to do something stupid with their health because they think that it might be a good progress. Because the final frontier to a billionaire is just living forever, right? There we go. Well, there we are. That was Casually Explained. Wonderful video, as always. Please subscribe to his channel. But while you're doing that, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to my channel and like this video? I'd greatly appreciate it. Otherwise, thank you so much for stopping by Jolie's. Remember, join me on that fence and enjoy yourself.